This is Jason Saltzman, buildingthefantasy.com. Create, run, manage the best fantasy league possible with buildingthefantasy.com. Today's episode, roster options. So we're not going to do a deep dive into each one of these. There is a video on each one of these options specifically. However, this one we're going to do a quick glance and get right into it. If this is your first time or your 100th time, click the subscribe button below, get all the great content. Head over to buildingthefantasy.com for even more and hit the like. Write a comment below. What does your league do? What has your league found to be the best? What do you enjoy roster-wise? Let's get right to it. So on the left-hand side, you're going to see the standard league. If you were to join a standard ESPN league, a standard Yahoo league with other owners, that is what you're going to get. No adjustments or anything there. If you were to create a league and not make any personal adjustments, that's what you're going to get. 1 QB, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 tight end, a flex. A flex is normally either receiver, running back, or tight end, so it gives each owner the opportunity to put what their strength is. It has some flexibility. If you're stronger at receiver, you could fit a receiver in there. If you're stronger at running back, so on. Kicker and defense, so that's what's going to be there. However, I think it's either, no. They all still have kickers. That is your standard league. The options on the right are either to simplify things or make things a little more in-depth, add a little more strategy for the hardcore or nerdier fantasy players, such as a 2-quarterback league or adding wide receivers, a 3 or 4 wide receiver league, adding an extra running back. Hard to go a 4 running back league. There's just not enough running backs playing each week, but you can go 3 running backs, no problem. Tight end, sometimes people add a second tight end or a super tight end. I've heard this called a few different things, but basically it puts a premium on the tight end. So if you have 1 tight end, they're going to get time and a half on the points. So everything they do is time and a half as the tight end. It just adds a little more value to a scarce position. You can go no kicker. Nothing here is wrong or right. It's all league preference. There are many leagues that survive just as standard on the left. There are many leagues that survive with different options on the right and a mix of different options. It's all personal preference. What works best for you as the commissioner, what works best for you as an owner, works best for the league, what type of league is it? And then defense is the standard. In some leagues, you can play IDP, which stands for Individualized Defensive Position. We are going to do a quick glance at each of these, but again, there are specific videos that you can jump to if you want to look at a 2-quarterback league or if you want to look at the different flex options. And I dive deep into it. Here, it's not as deep of a dive. This is what we're going to do here, such as quarterbacks. So you can do the 1 QB, which are now starting 10 to 12 quarterbacks. I guess in an 8-person league or 8-team league, it's only 8 quarterbacks. And then in a 2 QB league, you're starting 20 quarterbacks. And quarterback being so valuable in the NFL, I do like starting more quarterbacks. Only starting a third of the quarterbacks out there in a given week leaves a lot of good QBs or questions to be had. It's normally pretty obvious who you're going to play or who you're going to start. 2 QB just makes them more valuable in the league. You need to get 2 or 3 quarterback minimum on your roster to have the bye weeks or injuries covered. So basically, this is to increase value and depth of the quarterback position, but it's hard to do. Some leagues don't like it, and also, if you have more than 10 owners in your league, it's real hard to do it. If you have 12 teams in your league, now you're talking about 24 starting QBs. If each owner were to have a bench QB, now is 36. There aren't 36 starting quarterbacks in the NFL, so it makes it tricky. And it's hard to do. You can do it, but that's another level that you have to weigh. Is it fair to everybody? Is it not fair? What if you can't get a hold of that 3rd QB and now you're starting nobody on your bye week, or you can't get the backup to this QB? At least in a 20 quarterback with 10 owners, now there is literally the math for each team to have 2 starters, 1 bench, and even a couple left over. Moving forward, 2 wide receiver, 3 or 4. Again, 2 is the standard. That's 20 to 24 receivers out there. That's all the big names to names at least. Most of the names fit in there. 30 to 36, you're starting to get a little more detailed or depth, and that would be with 3 starting wide receivers. You're starting to play receivers maybe the casual fan hasn't heard of or doesn't pay attention to or doesn't really want to do the research on. And then again, with 4 starting receivers, it'd be 40 to 48. Why would you add the receivers? Well, it's to increase depth at the wide receiver. It's tougher to find that 3rd and 4th starting receiver versus other people. You can find more of a gap in strategy or skill by having to take that 3rd and 4th receiver and doing the research versus your opponent versus just starting 2 wide receivers. There's a little less strategy. You can come across a wide receiver deeper in the draft that ends up having a good year that fits in your... It's just more... less chance for screwing it up, which I would say that 50, 60, 70% of fantasy football, really 60 to 70%, is the casual fan, and they're not looking to be all nerdy about it. And then there's the 30, 40%, which include myself, that do want to get nerdy about it, and I do want to research who's my best 3rd wide receiver option or 4th. And now you're talking about the 5th receiver being a bench player that you really got to do some homework on and know. It's all about winning the battles in these certain areas. Again, for a lot of fantasy football, and I don't knock it, I think it's great for fantasy football. I think it's great for the NFL. 20 to 24, 2 starting wide receivers is perfectly fine. Plus, you have a flex to worry about, and then your bench. Moving forward, 2 running backs is the standard, 3 running backs. Again, it just increases the depth at running back. It's harder to find that 3rd producing running back. It's easier to find the stud running back. They generally go in the 1st or 2nd round. It's easier to find the 2nd running back. But now trying to find a 3rd running back or your 4th running back is now your bench player or your 3rd running back is your flex and then bench player. And then so it just adds more if you're starting 30 to 36. 40 to 48 running backs at 4 is uncommon. I wouldn't suggest it. I just don't think there's enough running backs per week that put up points because generally each team has only 1 or 2. There's bye weeks. The 2nd running back doesn't get as many touches or as many points. I wouldn't recommend more than 3 running backs. 2 running backs, again, is fine. It's simple. And then if you're filling in the flex and then a bench, you could be carrying quite a few running backs there. 1 tight end is the standard. You'd be starting 10 to 12 tight ends. You can go 2 tight ends, 20 to 24 tight ends. You wouldn't want to go 3 tight ends. There's not enough tight ends per week. You could also keep it at 1 tight end, but do the super tight end, or there's different names for this, but it's time and a half the normal scoring. This would be to increase the depth and value at tight end. Moving forward, kicker or no kicker. This is one where I think most of the other options are more for the hardcore fan, where this option here can go either way, just releasing kickers or cutting the scoring in half for kickers. That could be for the hardcore or the casual kickers. There's a video on it. I'm not going to get into too much of kickers. I think the video is excellent. You should check that out. I also think there's a PPR, non-PPR video, which is also done so great that you're not going to find anywhere else. But check out the kicker video. Again, the options here are to roster 1 kicker. Nobody really does a bench kicker, and then or just no kickers. And this is just league preference. There's many leagues that survive both ways that work just fine and are functional both ways. No right or wrong. Lastly, we get into the team defense / special teams. You generally roster 1 of those, maybe a bench. So you're having 10 to 12 starting. And then your other option is IDP. I've seen some of the leagues switch these or do a little bit of both, basically. So they've implemented both IDP, maybe 1 or 2 IDP, along with the defense or special teams, and they have both. This is just league preference. There's no right or wrong. Keep IDP scoring lower than offense. I think that is important. There's no need to have that cornerback who has an interception and 5 tackles having the same production as a receiver that catches 6 balls for 90 yards. You know, I like to keep the IDP scoring much lower than offensive scoring. If you have 6 or 7 IDP, it adds up, and now you're trying to win that battle again. There is a video specifically on individualized defensive players or positions versus team defense and how you should implement it. For the 60-70% of you out there, casual fans, keep playing the defense, special teams. It works fine. If you're in that 30-40%, go watch that IDP video. What to do next? Go watch all these specific NFL videos and roster options. Their scoring option video is great. PPR versus non-PPR. Other specifics such as free agency or how to handle your dynasty off-season. It's all there. Jump straight to league basics or to league builds if you really want to get specific or get some ideas flowing. BuildingTheFantasy.com here to help you create, run, manage the best fantasy leagues possible. I'm Jason Saltzman. Thanks for tuning in and stay tuned.
Hi guys, Real Life Peter Griffin here. You know what really grinds my gears? A poor constructed fantasy league. Continue to tune in and thanks for watching BuildingTheFantasy.com.